Hello, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, send questions or comments to our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable, on the Facebook event page for episode 207, The Widow's Son, or in the YouTube chat running alongside this video. As for introductions, my name's John Ruart, past master of the Patriot Lodge number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. Next up, we have Mike the intern. Mike, say hi.
Hey, Mike Hambrick here from Village Lodge number 274 in Burton, Ohio, and Triandria Lodge number 780 in Rock Creek, where I am the junior steward and lodge education officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, Jason Richards.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Jason Richards here, past master of Acacia Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia, and member of the Colonial Lodge number 1821 in Washington, D.C.
Very cool. And our special guest for tonight, we have Brother Chad Bromley, a.k.a. goes by his stage name Apathy, from Worcester Lodge number 10 in Colchester, Connecticut.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Good, very good. Out here on tour, just grinding away.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll have a lot to dive into, and really excited to have you here. So thanks in advance.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, first up, and the only thing we got from Masonic news this week, at least of interest, is let me share my screen. We have kind of the first big announcement. You know, you've made it when you've made Chris Hodap's blog that MasonicCon 2018 is rolling out this April 28th in Attleboro, Massachusetts. That's right. They'll have, I believe, their third ever MasonicCon at Ezekiel Bates Lodge in Attleboro, Massachusetts. And if you want to hear more about what they cover there, really good event. We did do a recap episode about April and May of last year, 2017. How the MasonicCon event experience was. We were all really jazzed because as many people have defended on some of the Facebook messages already, these guys have really pulled an heroic effort out just at the lodge level. There's no Grand Lodge sponsorship. There's no, nationwide network that's forming this. These brothers just got together, really formed kind of the best all-around Masonic event for everybody. So it's not really exclusive. There's stuff for families to do. But most exciting of all, you'll get to see a few of us. I know Robert Johnson's going to be out there leading a panel. And myself, I'll be out there giving a little talk about some of the data that we've collected over the years and a couple other topics as well. So you can see the list by checking out the show notes. But if you haven't heard, going over to their website, which is eb1870.org/MasonicCon 2018. So it's Ezekiel Bates Lodge 1870. So go check that out. You'll hear more about it as it gets closer. But if you want to come clear your calendar, you'll get a chance to hang out with some awesome Masons. And we're specifically talking about the brothers who run that event because they're in it to win it. They're doing the right things. All right, that's it for Masonic news. So let's get right to this topic for this week. We tried to have Brother Chad on last week. He's been on tour. He's been working all sorts of odd hours, different time zones, just been hustling day and night. So we were unable to work out our schedules last time. So, thank you for your patience, and thank you, Brother Chad, for making it work.
Yeah, definitely, man. I've been a fan of you guys, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So we've been talking about you for years. Our first exposure really has been your Grand Leveler video.
Yeah, ever since the Grand Leveler dropped, I think we pimped it out on the show back a couple of years ago.
Dope.
Right?
What was that, John?
No, it wasn't without controversy, of course.
Oh, yeah. Tons of controversy from both ends, from Masonic and non-Masons as well. There was tons of controversy.
So the first question I had for you, though, is basically how long you've been rapping, and then were you a Mason first, or did you join Masonry after you started the game, or what was the timeline of these two lives that you have?
My professional career started in 1998, so actually late 97. So it's been 21 years already. And I've been rapping, and I've been a Mason for about 5 or 6 years now. So initially, I mean, when I first started, it was heavily laden in conspiracy theories and just crazy stuff. And, you know, my original stuff, my earlier music was all heavily into metaphysics and esoteric sciences and the Gnostics and the mystery schools and all that. And that's where it all started pretty much.
So that leads me out to my next question then is, did all that stuff that you were researching, reading about in that culture, did that influence you joining the craft? Or what was your inspiration to join the craft then?
Well, initially, the thing is that, I mean, for a long time, I thought, like everyone else thought, conspiracy theories wise, was that Masonry, Freemasonry was evil, and it was some type of, you know, hidden, deep, dark, sinister plots and plans and all this evil stuff. And I had no idea. I didn't really understand. I only knew what I read in these books and what I saw online and discussed with other wackos. But so after that, like years and years later, I had met a guy who was really cool, who ran this label, this brother named Ryan Lynch. And Ryan was talking to me about Freemasonry. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's this and that and this and that. And he's like, no. He's like, do you know any actual Masons? And I said, I don't think so. And he said, I'm a Mason. And I was like, really? So him and I had a discussion and we talked about what was what. And I was really intrigued. And then so I started to discuss it more and find out other things. And I met some other people who were Masons. And then I went down to a lodge and met some brothers prior to their lodge meeting and ate dinner with them. And it was just completely different than what I had thought. And around that time, too, my father had passed away. I almost died from pancreatitis. So it was a time period where, you know, I really was looking for something a little more in depth and looking to have a little bit more of a focused camaraderie and brotherhood and be around people. So it was a perfect timing as far as that was for me to see that.
That's good, right? They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So it sounded like it was the right time for you to join the craft. That's exciting. So let's get back to the Ground Leveler. So that came out in your album Connecticut Casual in 2014. So it's been almost 4 years now.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that you were able to put a lot of that Masonic influence into the next album we're going to talk about. But in those 4 years, what's been the reaction like of the Grand Leveler, and do you kind of play that on tours? What do you do as far as getting reaction from that previous influence of where you inserted Masonry into your vocation?
Well, I think there's 3 types of reactions from different types of people. There's Freemasons who actually there's 4 different reactions, because there's Freemasons who love it, Freemasons who hate it. Then there's hip hop fans who don't give a crap about what I'm rapping about or talking about. They just love the beat and the flow and the lyrics and the imagery. And then there's 5, because then there's people who are intrigued and fascinated by it, and they're inspired by it, and they want to learn about things that I'm talking about. And then there's the 5th, who are just the conspiracy theory wackos who are completely feel betrayed that I would ever get into this and do this, and I've sold out and I've sold my soul and all this crap. So those are the 5 different reactions that I've had over the years.
It's a little bit of everything, huh?
Yeah. And the other cool thing too is that I think that, you know, we spoke off the air and I talk about this regularly. The real cool thing is that there's been a whole bunch of young guys who, just like myself prior to meeting this guy, had no idea what Freemason really consisted of. And they didn't understand. They thought there was some type of nepotism where you have to have a family member, you have to have blood in Freemasonry, or they just had all these misconceptions. And it did a lot to at least open a dialogue and talk to a lot of people who later on became brothers. And I literally, when I sat and tried to guesstimate and estimate the other day, it's been over 100 people who have hit me up and talked to me, and I spent time talking to them to the point where, you know, at night my wife would see me typing to kids and typing to people, and she'd sigh and roll her eyes and be like, God, why are you doing this? Why are you spending all this time doing this?
We understand that.
Yeah. And a lot, yeah. So you feel my pain. So a lot of those young guys, a lot of those young men became Masons and are excellent Masons now.
So then we fast forward to 2018. Now I know you've been working on this album since most of 2017, but the title of the 2018 album is "The Widow's Son."
No, I've been working on The Widow's Son since 2014 or 2013.
Wow, holy
Yeah.
smokes!
Yep. I work on albums. I have music and material that I've recorded and written right now. I have probably about 3 albums worth of material that I don't know where it's going to go. Some of the lyrics might get remixed over different beats. So I just work and work and work tirelessly till I have this huge stockpile of content, and then I form it later into one cohesive project. But The Widow's Son, I've been kind of formulating that I knew what the skeleton of it was going to be.
Well, that's a good point, because when I looked at your discography, man, you hustle, man, because every year you're coming out with 1, maybe 2 albums a year. So
Yeah.
you're not a one-hit wonder. and to keep this stuff going, it's just amazing, because it really shows your work ethic in producing out solid content.
Yeah, I've always wanted the Tupac work ethic. You know what I mean? Where he's got so much stuff he's sitting on. He was just, and I think I've knock on wood, I think I've outdone that body of work. Mm-hmm. So not in as far as content, but I just mean quantity. I feel like I've recorded a ton of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I know that all of us have listened to, at a minimum, the Grand Leveler, as well as the entire Widow's Son. So let me jump over to Mike and Jason. What were your reactions of Chad's new album?
So, really enjoyed it first off, but I think the best thing that happened, and I've told like John and Mike this story already. It gave me a little bit of validation as a Mason, because I was telling my wife, "Hey, we've got this guy coming on. He's a Mason and a rapper," and my wife just looked at me and she said, "There's this entire subculture that revolves around Masonry, isn't there?" I was like, "That's what I've been trying to tell you for 6 years." But it's just absolutely incredible hearing all of the metaphysical influences and all the esoteric influences in your lyrics and in your writing. It's just really cool, and it's something that I think is very, very unique as far as music is concerned today.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And the one thing that's hard to do, or the biggest challenge that I had when I was doing this album was, I have so much information and so many things that I've studied and learned. I can't do songs. It's almost like doing like cliff notes of movies or cliff notes of books, because it's just, you have to condense it into a 3-minute long thing and make it digestible to non-Masons and people who don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's got to sound intriguing. It can't just be data, information. It's got to have some zing to it. It's a really tough to kind of like balance and level everything out. But I appreciate guys who know what they know and who enjoy it also.
Yeah, if you could just summarize the King James Bible into like a 4-minute track, that'd be awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
The Bible's allegorical, not historical.
Oh, there it is. You might as well just drop the mic.
Drop Mike. Makes a good intern. Don't drop Mike. Mike.
No. So first off, I'll start off by letting you know I'm the old fart on the show who figures rap peaked at Run DMC.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. No, actually, I enjoyed your stuff. I did listen to it. It's not my regular listening, so I had to,
for sure,
had to open up to it. But honestly, it's very good. I'm not just snowing you there. I actually enjoyed it a lot. And I actually have one question for you about the esoteric side of what you're going to do. When are you going to do the one about the pancakes?
Yeah. I feel like that's one that would lose us Masons. I feel like some of the guys would be like, "What? That's what they do? They got to do dishes and make pancakes?" Well, forget this.
Trying to make money, not lose money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Widow's Son album. You've actually had some really cool samples in there, because I know that you are a big Manly P. Hall fan.
Huge Manly P. Hall fan.
As soon as I heard the first like true Masonic track, I was blown away. I knew where this is going right away, because you actually had excerpts, you had samples from some Manly P. Hall lectures. So tell me about Manly P. Hall's influence on your thought process. You've kind of alluded to some of the stuff you studied. Why you chose to put some of those samples into this album?
I feel like Manly P. Hall is I mean, I have a song called Obi-Wan on my album, but it had nothing to do with my father. I feel like Manly P. Hall is my Obi-Wan Kenobi, because prior to years before me becoming a Mason, I read Manly P. Hall without even realizing. I don't know what book it was, but Manly P. Hall's not like, I'm a Freemason, I'm a Freemason, I'm a Freemason. He writes tons of books that have nothing to do with the craft. So I had books by Manly P. Hall and, H.P. Blavatsky and all types of books like that. And Manly P. Hall resonated with me the most, and what he wrote was fascinating without coming off as kooky, even though they were very outlandish, grand ideas, but they were still kind of rooted, because I've read everything from like even crazy, esoteric guys like Dr. Malachi York and the Holy Tabernacle Ministries and stuff like that. And some of those guys write interesting things, but they just come off like Fruit Loops. And Manly P. Hall would write a lot of interesting things. And then, you had guys who better fit, as far as me, like Pike. I feel like Pike was a little more relevant in those times, even just the language used and the ideas. It's awesome. And I can't, I'm not disrespecting Pike at all, but I feel like it resonated better back in those times, maybe in the 19th century, 20th century. Yeah, the 19th century. And I feel like Manly P. Hall definitely had more information that stuck with me, and that was really sucked me in.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting drawing the parallels between Manly P. Hall and his craft and you and your craft, in the sense where, Manly P. Hall did the majority of his writing actually before he joined the craft. And you started out in, in your vocation as well. And then, interesting to see how the craft has inserted itself into the way you do your vocation. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think I feel like maybe it's just something that, I can't speak for him, but for me, I just gravitated towards naturally for the type of person I am. And I feel like that probably happened with him as well. And was Rudyard Kipling, he was, I feel like the same thing must have happened with Brother Kipling there.
Yep. Yeah, Mike, you were going to say?
Yeah, when he asked about Rudyard Kipling, he was definitely a Mason, and I know that most of his writing, he was already a Mason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But like they said, Manly P. Hall, not until after he was done writing did he that's when he joined Masonry.
Mm. And you know what the funny thing is, even just sonically, because like I said, the data and the information, there's hours and hours and hours of stuff I wanted to post. So it was so brutal trying to pick out particular things and trying to figure out which little pieces I wanted to use of Manly P. Hall. But even sonically, I love the way they sound, how distorted and blown out it is. It sounds so awesome and old, and it's really cool.
Have you listened to any of his lectures rather than just reading them? Have you listened to any of that?
Oh yeah. Well, that's where I got all the sound bites from on my Widow's Son album from Manly P. Hall. And I also sampled him on my instrumental album for Dive Medicine as well. And I listened to tons and tons. Usually when I'm driving, I don't like to listen to music anymore. Music has been ruined for me, unfortunately,
you're
from working on it.
You really have to kind of keep up with that.
It's tough, man. Like even when I listen to older stuff that I really enjoy, like I listen to old Steely Dan albums, I'm not enjoying it and absorbing it. I'm analyzing and scrutinizing their mixes. Well, first of all, let me just say Steely Dan is the closest to perfection of a group ever. But with most music, I'm listening to what they did, and I'm like, ooh, that's a bad mix. They should have turned this up, or that writing is weak. So I usually listen to talk radio or Manly P. Hall lectures or NPR or podcasts when I'm driving around or when I'm traveling.
Yeah, so on the Widow's Son, you've got at least 3. Now that I know what Obi-Wan's about, maybe 4 truly like Masonic themed tracks on there. What's the response to those been like so far? I mean, I know it just kind of came out. So, what are you getting feedback on that?
People love them. People really love them. People are excited about it, and I think that, like I said, the difficult thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to speak to the brothers without alienating the average listener, and have the average listener be intrigued as well. Like when I did Legend of the Third Degree, you know, I dropped little gems in there that only brothers would know. And I'm not even saying it's just like a secret. You know, everybody's so concerned about what our secrets are, but it's just I wanted to sprinkle some stuff in there and paint this really vivid imagery and this really interesting scenery, and that's why I did, you know, the tracks like Legend of the Third Degree. I think the 2 most Masonic songs are the Widow's Son, the title track, and Legend of the Third Degree. Hypnosis has some sprinkled in it, but that's more just generalized esoteric. But those 2 songs I feel like are the biggest ones. And but I think I'm the most proud of, and I think my favorite song on the entire album is Legend of the Third Degree.
Nice.
So I don't know if brothers caught it. I don't know if anybody caught it, but have you ever heard that old song, Knock 3 times if you feeling?
Tom Jones, baby.
Yeah, well, no, I think is it Tom Jones? I felt like it was another group. But so that's cut up in there. Knock 3 times.
Got it.
And I always thought that was a cool thing.
Very nice. Yeah, because like you said, you tried to make it educational but entertaining as well. Like the whole KRS-One, right? Edutainment.
Yep.
So are you performing any of these new tracks on tour now?
Yeah, but I'm only performing joints that would do well with crowd. You got to keep your crowd moving, and none of the Masonic songs are appropriate for. I mean, if I had one that was really crazy, but just none of them are just real crowd rockers. You know, like I performed the Pete Rock song, I Keep On. I perform the DJ Premier song, The Order. I perform A View of Hell, and I think that's it from the newer album. I was gonna perform Alien Weaponry, but it's a little too slow, and it just slows down the set. So even doing the science and picking out the songs that we have in the order, there's a whole science to the set list.
I'm really glad you said that, because fun fact, many people don't know about me. I was a house DJ early on, like in my college years, and
nice.
And so I know exactly what you mean about you got to read the crowd, you got to keep the crowd going.
Yeah.
And there is an art to making sure that you get in the right energy level. You're pacing things out so that way you can kind of keep people going the whole time, keep them entertained the whole time that they're there. That's awesome.
Exactly. And I'll be in the middle of a set, and depending on the city we're in and how the crowd is, I'll go up to the DJ and look at what he's about to say and be like, nah, skip that one. Let's go to the next one. And, you know, and just to make sure that everything stays moving and everything goes.
So, kind of migrating off of this album now, I know you and I talked a little bit in the green room too about the whole conception of Freemasonry and the Illuminati as far as the hip hop culture goes.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, we've all heard, you know, kind of the Jay-Z, the pyramid thing. Beyonce, obviously, through association with Jay-Z. Rihanna, even KRS-One himself has been kind of whacked out there talking about how he was taught by a 33rd degree. He knows all the secrets.
He says he's an honorary Mason or something like that. He's like, because of the knowledge I have, they recognize me, and I'm just like, oh my God, dude, stop! Like
you're embarrassing yourself, man. You just
no disrespect to KRS-One, who I'm a huge fan of, but
yeah, absolutely. But
just
don't talk.
He's one of our live viewers. He watches every week.
But that's not to say it doesn't come with some risk, because you're taking a big risk when you are explicitly saying, yes, I'm a Mason.
Yeah.
In this hip hop culture.
Yeah, for sure.
What's been the reaction been like? Because that you got to be putting your neck out there. Have you got any threats?
For the most part, it's positive. But what I've noticed is that over the years, there has been a huge influx in mental health issues. And I don't know if the drugs are getting crazier or what the deal is, or I don't know what it is, but I've seen a lot of kids with a lot of disorders and a lot of problems, and people hit me up just talking absolute nonsense, like a stream of consciousness of just wacky stuff, talking about apathy. I am Thoth of the letter something something, and I know teleportation of this. And it's crazy because it's not somebody just trolling me with a quick thing. It'll be an enormous essay written, and then 2 days later he writes me another one. Then 3 hours later he writes me another one, and it's really crazy and scary that it's at this level. But also, there's a lot of brothers who don't get what I do and they think that I'm benefiting off the craft. No, that's the furthest thing from the truth. I have a lot of fans who have completely said, I don't mess with you anymore, Apathy. I'm not buying your stuff anymore. You sold out. You're a Mason. I've had guys who've given me death threats. I've had people who said certain things. And all of this has happened since I've become a Mason, and I've taken these risks. My wife hates it that all of this stuff happens. It's really crazy that there's brother master Masons out there who just kind of act so self-righteous, and they pass judgment without talking to me or knowing who I am or what the deal is. And they don't know what I go through. They don't know what I'm doing this for. They don't know how long I've been doing this. So it's pretty crazy. If anything, it's an upward battle. And if anything, I've lost money and I've lost fans with all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a sensitive subject for folks like us, folks like Juan, who are actually making apparel and artwork. Just for anyone to say that someone's profiting from the craft when, for one, most of the guys I know, their hearts are in the right place. Yourself included. But at the same time, people have been literally profiting from the craft for, I don't know, a couple hundred years, right?
Well, can I say one thing? We started doing I started doing a clothing line called Grand Lodge Clothing, and I started making clothing and selling it and stuff like that. And I didn't really get any kickback from that. But one thing that I realized is I bought this ring on eBay from this company called Proline Designs. And I reached out to the guy and I said, hey, brother, blah, 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 blah. What lodge are you from? He's like, oh, I'm not a Mason. And I'm like, oh, cool. So our Masons have a problem with Masons making money off this, but they'll go to some of these websites. I forget what some of these websites are, but they'll go buy all their Masonic. They'll be all proud of themselves and excited. Like, oh, yes, I went and bought my new apron today. Yeah, you bought it from a non-Mason who just made money off you, and it doesn't even help a brother master Mason. I have a wife and a kid. Maybe it could help me and my wife and kid. But no, you go to somebody else who's a non-Mason, but that's completely okay to buy this stuff from non-Masons. That's crazy. It doesn't even make any sense.
At all, are you? You really just need to get a little more energy in how you really feel about this.
Well, I mean, that's a huge problem in Masonic culture today. I think there's just an automatic assumption that, I'm a Mason, you're a Mason, which means I'm entitled to getting something from you for free. And I'm entitled to get offended if you charge for it. But I was on the What is a Mason podcast over the weekend, and Jared Stanley and I talked about this a little bit, where there's a fine line between Masons who believe they're entitled to get something like education or mentorship or something intangible for free, whereas they'll shell out hundreds and thousands of dollars on regalia, and they're kind of fine with that. So there's a big culture problem within the fraternity today that's just alienating people, and it's really a cancer on the fraternity. We need to stop. We need to stop with this idea of I'm entitled to have you help me out or give me whatever you're selling for free because we're brothers, and that's crap.
I get that all the time with brothers who think they'll be like, oh, hey, I see you're a brother and you're doing big things in music. I do music too, man. I want you to help me out and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, brother, I'm not obligated to do that. I'm not just gonna that's crazy. That takes away time from my family. That takes away time from my vocation. I don't have time for that. I can't even help my own friends who I've been friends with for 20 plus years in this music industry. You know what I mean? I can't stop because you decided last year you want to be a rapper or you want to do this and you want me to listen to your demo now. Just the same way as if I needed a carpet installed and I have a brother in the lodge who installs carpets, I'm not even going to expect a discount. I don't expect anything. If the brother feels like he wants to do that, that's on him. But I don't even mentally for a single second expect that I'm going to get a discount from a painter or a body shop guy or any of that. That's not what this is about.
You expect it's going to get done right. And that's where the expectations stop, right?
Fairly. Yeah.
Yeah. And like with me, when it comes to that kind of stuff, the way I see it is, because they're a brother, I know I can trust them more with what I'm asking them to do and to do it right than I can with the guy who really isn't. That's the way, that's the way I treat that. But no, for discounts, that kind of stuff, never. But, but for, these guys that all sit back and want to complain about profiting from the craft, they're the same ones that'll sit there and take a look at another brother who's profiting from the craft, who's really profiting. Overcharging for whatever. And don't get me wrong, I'm not judging guys' prices, but there's guys who will literally gouge us, and they're brothers, and they want, certain things, and they'll charge per diems to come speak. Not just, the idea of coming, getting their room and board paid for or whatnot, but they'll charge a huge premium for that, and, I'm not saying it's, that they're not entitled to it, but there's others that don't do that. And so it's, but it's the ones that don't do it that end up, well, you're asking for your airfare? Come on. What do you mean you're asking for airfare?
Yeah.
So
Apathy. Go ahead, man.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to change the subject and ask you another question.
Before you change the subject, I think that the other misconception too is that even if there's a brother who has a contracting business and he puts the square and compass on his business card, which wouldn't make any sense to do, I don't think it's a danger to the craft or anything crazy anyway, because this isn't 1941 or 1956 when that's going to benefit you. Most people, if you hand a cop your driver's license and a business card that has a Masonic logo, most cops are not Freemasons. The guy's going to be like, what is this? I don't care. The odds are like astronomical that you're going to run into a brother Mason who's going to hook you up. It's not like the 50s or the 30s where everybody was Masons and that was a benefit. I feel like that's an old, outdated idea anyway.
And yet our Grand Lodges still grapple onto that, because I know, in Virginia, at least as far as the Grand Lodge is concerned, it's a Masonic offense to use the square and compasses or your affiliation as a Mason in your vocation.
Yeah, same with Connecticut. I feel like Connecticut, but the one thing that's cool about our Grand Lodge is all of our Grand Lodge really has my back with what I do musically, and it's a crazy thing because, like I said before, man, it's just it would be like almost delusions of grandeur to think that I'm using it to benefit off of what I do. But yeah, let's change the subject. Let's go to the next thing.
Before we do that, statistically, if there's 300 million people in the United States, and there's only about 1 million Masons, then that means that only 3 in 1,000 people are actually Freemasons. So you have 1/3% chance of running into another Freemason. So your odds are kind of bad. I mean, you better hand it off like, your church card or, some other organization part of.
And the crazy thing is that these brothers, I don't think the older guys understand who have an issue with me doing this. I'm already very well established. Like, I'm not some local guy who's trying to hope I can,
right. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's a different scenario. So yeah.
All right, Jason, what's up next?
All right, so I wanted to kind of bring it back to Freemasonry a little bit and ask you, Brother Apathy, like, what's your relationship like with your home lodge? Like, how do you stay connected to the craft when you're gone for months on end? Like, do you get a chance to go back and visit? Like, what's your Masonic life like?
Since my daughter has been born and everything is slowed down so much because my workload has actually tripled. And then my daughter, I'm very, very heavy in my daughter's life. I'm with her most of the time. My wife works a regular job with regular hours, and I'm constantly with my daughter. So nights that our lodges meet, and I belong to a couple lodges. I affiliate with lodges as well. So nights that our lodges meet, my wife is at work, and I either have a babysitter so I can get my work done, or I have a babysitter, or I don't have a babysitter, so I'm the babysitter. So it's been tough, man. It's almost been non-existent. I've gone to a few things. There's been a few things where a brother has told me, hey, we're going to open up this time capsule. If you could come down with us and throw on some apron and some jewels and hang out with us. So I'll real quick, hurriedly, quickly get together and rush to go do this thing real quick. And then I got to jet right back home. So since my daughter's been born, for the last about 2.5 years, it's been really tough for me to get out to everything. But I still keep in touch with brothers. I still talk to brothers. I talk about Freemasonry all the time. But as far as going to the lodge, it's slowed down significantly. And, you know, and one criticism that I have for Freemasonry, at least in our state, and it's not to take away from any work that our brothers do, because our brothers do phenomenal work. They do phenomenal work on the floor. They're great. But it's just, there's a little bit of monotony and redundancy. If you're not going to a degree, which you've already seen a whole bunch of times, then you're going to a stated communication. And I keep thinking, like, man, this is tough. Like, am I going to hang out with my daughter and do this stuff with her? Or am I going to go to this thing that I've seen a million times and it's going to be the same guys? And it's almost like Groundhog's Day. And if there was something crazy, or there was some crazy event that was awesome, like New York has the Garibaldi degree or something like that, really exceptional things that are put on, I think there should be more focus as far as our area. I don't know if Freemasonry like this everywhere is like this, but I think there should be more focus on doing things to keep younger Masons stimulated and interested.
Or
and that's my biggest issue.
Con on April 28th, 2018 in Attleboro, Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just an idea.
yeah, I definitely want to try to come out to that. I gotta come try to check that out.
All right, I think we got time for one or two more questions from Mike or Jason.
So I was wondering, you know, since you've got all this esoterics that in your repertoire, and I'm not just talking the music, I'm talking, you know, your knowledge on it. Have you thought about or have you put together any kind of like an educational program for within your lodges, and or that you'll even travel to talk about?
I started to talk about that with one of the worshipful of the lodge that I affiliate with. And I was going to start to put together an educational thing specifically, especially for newer Freemasons who want the high of Freemasonry and want the excitement of Freemasonry. But then, like I said, once these album deadlines started coming in, and then once my wife is like, well, we got this to do and you got to watch her that night and this and that. And I'm sitting here. And the other crazy thing too, is that when we put out these albums, I don't think people realize me and my partner Self-Titled do everything from the molecular level. Okay, we write our own one sheets. We deal with our distributors. We deal with our publicists. I'm in charge of getting all the artwork done and mixing and mastering and sequencing. And it's just an insane workload to do. So I wanted to do all these things, and I had all these super ideas for Freemasonry, and I say them and I spitball them, but then all of a sudden just life kicks in and I just get my butt kicked and I just don't have time to do it. And, I mean, our vocation comes first, our family comes first, and that's what I end up having to do.
All right, so we've got a couple questions from the YouTube chat. Really good one is just asking for your opinion, Apathy. What esoteric resources have you found like most valuable? We know you're a big fan of Manly P. Hall, but are there any other places you go for esoteric inspiration and knowledge?
Just books. I mean, like I said, over the years, the one thing that I've always tried to stay away from, and the one thing that I've always adhered to, is I don't 100% trust any man's writing, because we're all human beings. And I've always said, consider the source and always be ready to say, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and I don't know. I could be completely proved wrong. I love that. Is it a Platonic or Socratic idea of I know that I know nothing, the gist of that? And I love that saying, because I sit here on this, I could sit here on this high horse and say, I've studied this since 1993 and blah, 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 blah. And I know this information and that information. But then I could be completely effing wrong. You know, I could be proved wrong, and they could be like, hey, guess what? We just found information to find out this guy's a fraud, and these Dead Sea Scrolls were fabricated, and I don't know, maybe Shakespeare ghost wrote the Bible or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows? So you can study everything you want, but you just have to take everything with a grain of salt. And back to answering the question more in depth, I just try to read as much stuff as possible and try to weed out the crazy stuff. I mean, I've even read, who is it? Von Daniken and all those guys. And, like I said, Holy Tabernacle Ministries. And I just try to really dig deep in and read everything. I've read the Arantia book and H.P. Blavatsky and Manly P. Hall. And I try to read all these guys. And it's a lot easier now with the internet to find, like, to go down a rabbit hole and find one thing that leads to another, through a domino effect. But I take everything with a grain of salt. I think that's the most critical, important thing. And then I think one of the biggest things, I don't mean to go off too much here, but when I talk to younger guys who want to know about esoteric sciences, I say, don't let it suck your soul up and become obsessed with it. You still have to live life. Go walk through a meadow or go walk by a stream and breathe in the air and go fishing, go make out with a girl and go have fun and go just live life, man. Don't sit here and be like, oh my God, how do I activate my chakras to create a Merkaba vehicle so I can travel to a fourth dimension? Who gives a shit? Oh, excuse me. Who cares? We all share the same amount of time on this earth. You have to enjoy your time on this earth and you have to live this life. Life is a sensory experience while we're here. Do as best as you can. And don't worry about the details, man. It'll drive you absolutely crazy. I started studying existentialism, stuff like that, and it gave me anxiety and panic disorder, and it can drive you nuts.
Hey, good advice. Good advice. I like that. Yep.
All right. So we know that a lot of your music is focused on Blue Lodge. So some of the listeners are asking, are you a member of any appendant bodies? Do you have a favorite one?
I started off, all the guys told me, all the older guys, and I should have listened. I should have taken advice. They were like, start off slow, man. Take a couple years and enjoy Blue Lodge. Maybe go through the line if you have time. And I was like, nope. I want to be a 32nd degree Scottish Rite. I want to be a Knights Templar. I want to go through York Rite. So I joined these things. I got my 32nd degree. I started going through York Rite, and they were fascinating and they're awesome. But I just don't have time, and I fell behind with those two. And I haven't gone to Scottish Rite in years. I haven't gone to York Rite in years. And you if you have the time, it's awesome. If you have a lot of time, I think it's the one thing too that I always tell guys about Freemasonry is that it's your own tailor-made personal experience. And my experience is going to be completely different than yours. Maybe you have way more time than me. Maybe you don't have a wife and kid. Maybe, you can handle your time differently. But I joined both a little prematurely, and I enjoyed them immensely, but I just don't have time for them.
No, that makes sense. So we've got a super detailed question, and I'm going to try not to butcher it. One of our watchers or listeners has been asking about your work, Alien Weaponry, and you mentioned Ultramagnetic Four Horsemen, and he's asking, how did Ultramagnetic MC's Four Horsemen album influence your album and other albums?
The Four Horsemen album came out in '93, and the way that influenced me was it taught me to think outside the box and make kooky music. Like when Kool Keith is insane and he doesn't really make any sense. But when he said, I get atomic, hypo, galactical, word to mom, I'm in my own world, galaxy rays, powerful. It just taught me to be like, hey, I shouldn't take this so seriously and be so relegated to be like, this is reality and this is actual fact. And that's all I can rap about. I decided early that I could rap about cosmic stuff and crazy, fantastical things. And that had a big influence on me. The song, I love the song that starts off the whole album. They're making weird voices and they go, we are the horsemen, enter your spaceship. We are the horsemen, enter your spaceship. And it was just really cool to me. It intrigued me and interested me right away because I was interested in that kind of stuff. So that's how that was a big influence on me, just teaching me to think outside the box and do something that was next level.
So my final question for you is, what advice do you have for the craft today? Like, what do you want to say to Masons everywhere?
I think that, okay, this is an important one. This is just through my personal eyes. I can only say this through my experience and what I've experienced. I've gone to lodges, and the experience that I personally wanted from Freemasonry was a solemn, deep, interesting experience. That's what I particularly wanted. Some brothers join for different reasons. But when you go through degrees and there's brothers cracking little jokes, and you got guys who are, no offense to anybody out there, but guys who are in their 50s and 60s, and they're telling the yuck jokes of the past, and they do these little things. Or there's brothers who they'll play beautiful music on a guitar during a Master Mason degree. It doesn't really match for me. Like, I wish I had something more sinister. I want to feel this is something so deep that should propound this deep, profound experience upon you. And when you don't do that, it takes away from the candidate. We're always forgetting that a new guy is coming in. And just because some of these guys have been doing this 20, 30, 40 years, they get bored. So they're like, oh, well, let me mess around in my lodge experience and have fun and do this. But you're forgetting you're making a new Mason. And I think that a lot of these guys forget that. And I also think a big factor is that a lot of these lodges, it's like a meat factory. They just want heads. They want numbers instead of quality. So they just let anybody in. And I mean, there's been times where I've seen people from my area, and they're not bad enough, or I don't have anything to the point where I'd want to blackball them. But I'm like, nah, this is not a good fit. And I know where this is going to go in a year or two, and it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I think that they need to rethink the Masonic experience. And also, when I approach music, the reason why I feel like I've stayed so consistent over the years is because you always got to go into it like you're making your first album. Well, imagine going through your first degree. Don't forget what that's like. Just because you've done it 7,000 times and you're 64 years old or you're 58. And I'm not just trying to pick on the older brothers. I feel bad if it comes across like that, because I love them. They are the cornerstones of this whole thing. But, just think about that experience. Make something solemn. This isn't, I don't want to say any other clubs, but this isn't any other clubs. This is Freemasonry, man. This is Benjamin Franklin. This is, this is George Washington. This is the greatest. So it's like, step it up for them. Make it more solemn. Make a room of reflection, a chamber of reflection for these guys. Make it an experience that will affect them for their entire lives, and they will never forget it. I was lucky to have a really good first 3 degrees, but I've seen some where I'm just like, man, this is whack. So.
Man, that is awesome, because I think you got a lot of head nods here. You got a lot of people agreeing with you on the YouTube chat. You nailed it. As far as, I think we share a common want for the craft to move forward. So that's, man, you couldn't have said it better.
I think that if we include, I think that if we improve the quality, we will improve the quantity naturally. I think that people will gravitate towards it if there's something there. But I've also had guys who joined who I've known, and they're like, it's not what I thought, man. Like, it's cool, but like, there's a lot of yuck jokes, and then we're gonna have a lasagna dinner, and they're focusing on that, and that's just not what I wanted. So, but once again, it's all about what somebody wants for their specific and particular experience.
Well said. All right, I think it's time to start wrapping things up. Let's go around for final thoughts. Shameless plugs and anything else. Mike the intern, what say you?
Apathy, I really did, like I said, enjoy your songs.
Thank you.
I honestly, I'm like you. I don't listen to music much anymore. When I drive to and from work, it's podcasting. I mean, that's what I listen to. Occasionally it's an audiobook, but mostly it's the podcasts. And so, for when I say that I enjoyed the music, there's something there, because I don't listen to it enough anymore.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And, honestly, if you ever put together an educational program, I'd love to hear it. So,
yeah, I would love to at one point. And I think that when my kids are a little bit older and the career thing slows down, I'd have a tremendous amount to contribute to that. And, I have the rest of my life for Freemasonry. So knock on wood.
That's right. And, you were talking about the guys who have time. I'm that guy. My daughter's 21.
Yeah,
I'm 49
that's awesome.
years old. I'm 49 years old now. My wife loves it that I'm out of the house and, out doing something on my own, not something she has to go, all right, I'm dragging him along to another dog show. What can I do to make sure he's happy while we're here?
Well, listen, brother, you're still young, man. I hang out with hip hop legends who are older than you by 5-7 years.
Okay. So. But thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, brother Chad, anything else? Here's your time. Plug your album. What else you got? Anything else?
I just dropped The Widow's Son. The Widow's Son is out right now. If brothers are interested in light Masonic themes, that's what I always say, because I don't want to mislead them thinking it's an album full of paint by numbers Freemasonry. It's not that at all. But if brothers are into that, The Widow's Son is on all platforms. It's on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere. It's on. You can purchase it. You can purchase the vinyl, cassette, CDs at Demigod Store, which is DEMIGODZ store.com. And that's it. I'm on tour right now, and my Instagram is APATHYDGZ, and there's a lot of information there.
Cool. That's very cool. So you'll be touring for how long?
I will be touring. Oh man. So I tour for another couple days for this West Coast leg. Then I'm home for 3 days. Then I tour the Midwest to the East Coast. Where are you guys located?
We're all over. Mike, the intern's from Cleveland area. Jason and I around DC.
Okay, so well, I'm not doing anything in the DMV area, but I think I'm coming next to Cleveland. Let me see here where we're at. Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, Ohio. That's and then everything else. The furthest south we're going is Philly. After that, but yeah, and then I'm doing that.
About 2.5 hours away.
It's not too far.
Yeah, you guys should come to the Philly show, man. Let me know. I'll guest list you guys. And then I'm doing a huge Canadian tour in September. Then I'm doing a European tour in October, November, and then 2019 I'm doing an Australian tour. So,
nice.
This guy gets around. You are a traveling man for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to be. Shout out to all the brothers too who come through all the shows, man. It's really dope.
That's right. Yeah. Flash of light for sure. I'm sure. Let's see, Jason. Final thoughts, shameless plugs.
Yeah. So just for the viewers and listeners out there, I'm going to be putting all of Apathy's links on the show notes page, probably within the next 10 or so minutes. So you can always go to the MasonicRoundtable.com and check out episode 207, and we'll have all of his info there for you. So, Brother Apathy, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, can I say something to you guys too? Can I say something to you guys too? So my all-time magical, metaphysical, cosmic lucky number is the number 27. Like it's on some of my merch. It's hidden inside of my album covers. It's on this Apathy Demigods ring that I've had, the number 27. And that is so crazy that this is 207.
207, baby.
It was meant to be, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, thanks so much for. Oh, go ahead, John.
We'll just throw a circle dot in the middle of your 27. Good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Point within a circle. Yeah, I appreciate you guys so much, man. Thank you guys. I love your guys' show. I love listening to it. Great.
No, that's awesome. You've provided a great discussion tonight. Really, really interesting insight into the music industry and how the craft and the music industry kind of intersect or don't, as you found out from the hip hop community. Yeah. So no, it's blown away, man. It's just awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully John and I get to see you in the flesh at some point.
Absolutely, man. I hope you guys can come up to the show. Let me know if you can. Like I said, I'll guest list you guys. We'll meet up.
That'd be tight. Cool. Yeah. So I guess for my final thoughts, yeah, this has been great. I'm really excited because I get to talk about hip hop culture, which is something that been following off and on for many, many years. And I think it's just really exciting to see the intersection of the craft, again, turning those perceptions around in a positive light. You certainly are a really good ambassador of the craft when you go out there and do what you do. So thank you for doing that. And again, for those brothers who, although like you said, you try to take a lighthearted, this isn't a step-by-step guide for mysticism, but it is it is fun to start to pick apart some little clues and breadcrumbs you're leaving out for guys.
Yeah.
A lot of us on the show are, esoterically leaning, esoterically inclined, and you've done your homework, and so it's a nice little Easter egg for you to bury into some of these tracks that only maybe a dozen people are gonna pick up on.
Yeah. That's what I love, though. I love those. It even beyond just the esoteric stuff and all of that. I love burying weird little Easter eggs, like obscure references to characters on sci-fi shows and stuff like that. It's for those who get it,
Was that the Holy Mountain that you also referenced?
Yes. That was the Holy Mountain sampled at the end of the whole thing. The Holy Mountain, Manly people and the Holy Mountain narrate the whole thing, and that movie is a cluster F of chaos and insanity. But it's so dope. And you know what? The reason what made me want to put it throughout the album was the part that I sampled at the ending, where he's like, this is not reality. Like, we must go from here. And the other constant theme that I was going to do a Facebook live chat about and explain this about my album is that like the Manly P. Hall thing, where guys get so caught up in the, like, if the keys to life and the secrets to life are something that you can beg, borrow, or steal that are something tangible, when it's not. And that's the whole theme of this. Like, it's not what you think. It's Occam's razor. Don't multiply entities beyond their necessity. It's nuts.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks again. This has been a really great episode. I know everyone else has enjoyed it. So yeah, go check out brother Chad Bromley. Want to check him on tour, buy his stuff. You can tell he's a real deal. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, brothers.
And thank you for watching, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.